Oh, it's a struggle today. What is up, people first leaders? Happy Wednesday, July 7th. Hope you had a fantastic 4th of July. My name is Chris Lynn, and I am here to talk with you about everything that is happening in the world and how it affects the employee experience. Make sure you hit that subscribe button down below so you know when new videos or live streams are starting. Before I dive into today's topics, there is a new Leading People First episode out with Katherine McCord where we talk about leaders learning the truth from their employees and then needing to take action. The podcast is available everywhere you get podcasts like Apple, Google, Spotify, and Amazon. Let's kick off today by actually following up on a discussion we had last week, and that's the 4-day work week. Last week, we talked about how Kickstarter and other organizations are testing out a 4-day work week for their employees. Well, over the weekend, the world was all abuzz as the results from Iceland's government-backed 4-day work week trial came out. This trial covered 2,500 employees in 100 organizations, and they all saw their work weeks drop from 40 hours to 35 with no reduction in pay. To make this happen, teams reduced their meeting times, which I'm sure no one would complain about, improved their cross-functional communications, and reorganized their schedules to make this work. What they found was there was no significant impact to the productivity because their employees were able to manage their own times and they were much more efficient with what they did. And there was actually an improvement in employee well-being with perceived levels of stress and burnout dropping. Now, there's a lot more to come from this because Iceland is actually looking to expand their trials even further with other governments also looking to experiment with this. And I know that there are other organizations who are contemplating this. But knowing that this is the result from a 4-day work week, has your mind changed? Are you still on the fence? What else do you need to know about a 4-day work week? I'm not really sure what to expect at this point, but I'm looking forward to seeing what happens with other companies, and I would love to know what you think as well. Next up in, well, that's really crappy news, a survey by digital.com found that employers are beginning to take a hardline stance on returning to the office, with 4 in 10 employers saying that they will fire their employees who don't return to the office. Digital.com surveyed 1,500 small business owners and found that only 1 in 5 will continue allowing employees to work from home, and 45% of those surveyed said that employee productivity decreased. I don't know about you, but those productivity numbers is drastically different than a Stanford study that looked at productivity over a 9-month period and saw a 13% increase. We've definitely come to a crossroads where this game of chicken between employees and employers for work from home is at a tipping point. Ooh, that was a lot of analogies in one sentence, my bad. My opinion is still the same when it comes to working from home. Employers, you just have to let this one go. People have shown that they can be productive and they can be trusted no matter where they work. This need to control employee productivity is stemming from an executive and managerial lack of trust of their employees and a fear of losing control. Trust goes both ways, and if you're really concerned about culture, you need to find a way to make it work. It is up to you as a leader to adapt to the culture that is now the new normal. It is not up to your employees and it is not their responsibility to bear. It is yours as a people first leader. Culture is not a stagnant thing. It is constantly evolving. So make it evolve and make it work for your employees. Employees have gotten used to and are enjoying this flexibility that comes from working remote. I know I am, especially not having to drive in the mess that is called Bay Area traffic. So I would love for you to share if your company is starting to take this hardline stance or if they're being a bit more flexible. Maybe they haven't even decided yet and they're leaving you in the dark, but let me know what you're thinking or feeling. Sticking with employers and bringing people back, let's talk about how companies are needing to get creative to bring workers back into the labor force. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce recently polled over 500 Americans who were recently laid off during the pandemic and asked what would be attractive for them to come back to work. Nearly 4 out of 10 said a hiring bonus of $1,000 or more would do the trick, with just under a third saying that working from home would do it. Other responses included an increase of pay, which I'm all for, all employees being vaccinated, which is great as well from a safety perspective, or having their school or daycare reopening for their kids. This is really important for employers because we're seeing more than 9 million job openings currently available with almost 1.5 available workers per opening. That is a lot of people who are currently available to work, but there is still a really big reluctance for these people to come back. And companies, you need to start addressing it. I know I'm going to hear from some of you who are going to say that people need to get off their lazy butts, or that people need to get over it, or what about me? I've been working here this whole time. Look, I understand those arguments, but if you're thinking like this, all I have to say is that your situation is different from those people's, and you don't know what they are going through. If you really led people first, you would find a way to understand what they're going through and empathize with them. Passing this back to you, what is your company doing to incentivize people to come back to work? Or if you are currently unemployed, are you hesitant to come back? And in general, what are your thoughts about these incentives? Next up, let's talk about the upcoming Olympics in Tokyo and the decision by the International Swimming Federation last week that banned inclusive swim caps that were designed for athletes with big, thick, or curly hair. Now, I know this show and this video is not typically about sports, but bear with me because it does apply to the employee experience. The initial ruling came down because the caps didn't follow the natural form of the head, and that, to its best knowledge, the athletes competing at the international events never used, neither required caps of such size and configuration. The latest on this is that the International Swimming Federation is going to revisit this decision due to the immense backlash that came from their decision last week. Looking at this initial ruling, I can draw a lot of parallels to how this and workplace decisions are being implemented. Not only are decisions and policies typically being made by one group or one demographic in a vacuum, the enforcement of those rules then negatively impact individuals who don't identify with those decision-making groups. Not only are we talking about representation being needed in these rooms where decisions are being made, but leaders have to be more inclusive and ask those who are being affected by these decisions how it might affect them. So before you implement a policy based on any individual's characteristics like hair, body, or clothes, please reach out to them first and get their opinions, or else you may find yourself swimming in some pretty deep water. I hope the International Swimming Federation and Olympic committees allow these swim caps. Representation is so important, and it is so important for younger athletes to see their role models on a big stage like the Olympics. So I would love to know what your thoughts are on this. Do you think that this was a fair decision? Do you disagree? Or do you see any similar policies and decisions affecting your own workspace? Wrapping up today, let's talk about creativity. Now, when I said the term creativity, did that make you cringe? Because there is a new study showing that our creativity is actually declining. So if you didn't know, the Torrance test is a test for creativity, similar to IQ tests. But there's a number of standout points in a new study. Starting off, the Torrance test has been found to be a better predictor of real-world success. I had no idea that this test existed, and it actually shows that creativity in our society, at least in the United States, is undervalued and underdeveloped. Another finding is that not only has creativity been declining, but IQ scores have been declining as well. The alarming thing is that scientists don't really know why IQ scores are dropping. However, the light at the end of the tunnel is that scientists do have a good idea why creativity scores are dropping. The main indicator that they've concluded about dropping creativity scores is that our hurried, overscheduled lives and ever-increasing amounts interacting with electronics like our phones, TV, and computers are impeding on our ability to be creative. We just don't have time to be bored or imaginative anymore. This actually reminded me of an interview that I did with Jeff Harry on the Leading People First podcast, where we talked about the importance of boredom and how we can use that in the workplace. Now, no manager wants to hear that their employee is bored or sitting off and just twiddling their thumbs or just thinking about things. But for organizations to be innovative, this is actually going to be critical. I wonder if the next great company coming in the future is going to be the one that allows time for creativity, for play, for experimentation, rather than creating these environments that are so forced and focused on productivity. As always, I would love to know what you think about creativity and boredom in the workplace. Do you think that it's a good thing moving forward? Or just comment about any of the other topics that we talked about today down in the comments below. Thanks again for watching today. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button down below so you're notified of any new videos that come out. And make sure you subscribe to the Leading People First podcast, where we are talking about leadership and its effect on the employee experience. Be good to one another and stay awesome.